moment of grace. The fluorescent lights hummed softly in Riverside Market that Tuesday afternoon. Margaret Chen had worked the checkout lanes for 18 years, and she knew every sound this old store made. At 57, her hands moved with practiced efficiency across the scanner, but her eyes stayed warm and welcoming for each customer. That's when she noticed the little girl, about 7 years old, standing alone near the dairy case. Blonde braids, denim dress, clutching a stuffed horse. The child's hands were pressed against her ears and her eyes were squeezed shut. Margaret recognized the signs immediately. Her own grandson had autism. She'd seen this exact stance during his difficult moments. The girl was overwhelmed. Margaret glanced at her line. 3 customers waited, but something in her heart pulled harder than any company policy ever could. She stepped away from her register. "I'll be right back," she told the waiting shoppers. Her voice apologetic but firm. She approached the child slowly, kneeling down a few feet away. Not too close. Never crowd a child in distress. "Hello there, sweetheart," Margaret said softly. "My name is Margaret. I can see the lights and sounds are bothering you. Would it help if we found a quieter spot?" The girl's eyes opened slightly. She was trembling. Margaret noticed the stuffed horse. "That's a beautiful horse. Does he have a name?" "Thunder," the girl whispered. "Thunder is a strong name," Margaret replied. "I bet Thunder is very brave. And I bet you're brave too. Would you like to sit down for a minute? We can find a calm place." The girl nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Margaret guided her gently toward the employee break room, away from the chaos of the store. She grabbed a bottle of water from the cooler on the way. Inside the quiet room, the girl's breathing began to slow. "Where's your daddy?" Margaret asked gently. "I don't know," the girl said, her voice small. Everything got too loud. Margaret's heart ached. "We'll find him. Don't you worry." She handed the child the water. "Small sips now." That's when Margaret heard the voice behind her. Sharp, angry. "Chen, what do you think you're doing?" Store manager Dale Pritchard stood in the doorway, his face red. At 42, Dale ran Riverside Market like it was a military operation. Every second counted. Every rule mattered. Customer wait times were sacred. "I'm helping a lost child," Margaret said calmly. "You abandon your register. I have customers complaining. 3 people left their carts and walked out." Dale's voice rose. "That's lost revenue. That's unacceptable." "This little girl needed help," Margaret replied, standing her ground. She was having a crisis. "That's not your job," Dale snapped. "Your job is at the register. Security handles lost children. You know the protocol." Margaret felt her jaw tighten. 18 years she'd given this store. 18 years of showing up on time, working holidays, covering shifts. And this was how he spoke to her? "I saw a child in distress," she said quietly. "I did what any decent person would do." "Decent person?" Dale's laugh was bitter. "You cost this store money. That's what you did. Consider this your final warning. One more stunt like this and you're done." The little girl's eyes went wide with fear. Margaret was about to respond when she heard footsteps running down the hall. A man appeared in the doorway. Tall, dark hair, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than Margaret's monthly salary. His face was pale with worry. When he saw the little girl, relief flooded his features. "Emma," he gasped.
"Daddy?"
The girl jumped up and ran into his arms. The man held her tight, his eyes closing as he breathed in deep. When he opened them, they were wet. "Thank you," he said to Margaret. His voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you so much. I turned my back for just a second and she was gone. I've been searching everywhere." Margaret smiled. She's a brave girl. She just needed a quiet moment. The man looked at his daughter. "Did this nice lady help you?" Emma nodded. She knew about the loud sounds. She understood. "I have a grandson on the spectrum," Margaret explained. I recognized what was happening. The man's expression shifted to something deeper. Gratitude mixed with understanding. "You knew exactly what she needed." Dale Pritchard cleared his throat. "Sir, I apologize for any inconvenience. This employee violated protocol by leaving her station. I assure you she's being disciplined." The man's eyes narrowed. He looked at Dale with a gaze that could cut steel. "Disciplined?" His voice was quiet but carried weight. "For helping my daughter?" "Store policy requires," Dale began. "I don't care about your policy," the man interrupted. His tone was ice. "This woman saw my child in crisis and showed her compassion. She did exactly what should be done." Dale straightened his shoulders. With all respect, sir, you don't understand retail operations. We have standards. Wait times matter. The man handed Emma to Margaret for a moment. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. My name is James Morrison, he said. I'm the CEO of Morrison Holdings. We own 43 retail locations across 5 states, including this one. Dale's face went from red to white in an instant. We purchased Riverside Market 6 months ago, James continued. I was here today doing an unannounced inspection, seeing how our employees treat customers, seeing how management treats employees. Margaret watched Dale's Adam's apple bob as he swallowed hard. Sir, I didn't realize, Dale stammered. Of course you didn't, James said. And that's the problem. You treated this situation like a line item on a spreadsheet. She treated it like what it was. A child who needed help. James turned to Margaret. What's your name? Margaret Chen, sir. How long have you worked here, Margaret? 18 years. James looked at Dale. 18 years of institutional knowledge, 18 years of customer relationships, and you just threatened to fire her for showing basic human decency. Dale opened his mouth, but nothing came out. James's voice softened as he spoke to Margaret. My daughter Emma has autism. Every day is a challenge. Every public outing carries risks. You handled this perfectly. You gave her space. You spoke calmly. You made her feel safe. His voice cracked. As a father, I cannot tell you what that means to me. Margaret felt tears spring to her eyes. I just did what felt right. Exactly, James said. You operated from your heart. That's the kind of employee we need. He paused. Actually, Margaret, I have a question. Would you consider working for me directly? Margaret blinked. Sir? Morrison Holdings is opening a new training center, James explained. We're developing programs to teach all our employees how to recognize and help customers with special needs, how to create inclusive shopping environments. We need someone to lead that initiative, someone with experience, with wisdom, with compassion. Margaret's hand went to her chest. Are you serious? Completely, James said. Better pay, better benefits, and you'll be helping train thousands of employees to be more like you, to see people, not just transactions. Margaret looked at Emma, who smiled at her. Then she looked at Dale, whose face was a mask of shock. Then she looked back at James. When would I start? She asked. James smiled. How about Monday? 3 months later, Margaret stood in front of a classroom of new Morrison Holdings employees. The training center was beautiful. Bright windows, comfortable chairs, state-of-the-art equipment. On her desk sat a framed photo. It showed her with James and Emma at the center's opening day ceremony. She began her presentation the way she always did now. 18 years ago, I took a job at a grocery store because I needed work, she told the room. I never imagined it would teach me the most important lesson of my life. That every person who walks through our doors is someone's daughter, someone's father, someone's whole world, and how we treat them in their most vulnerable moments defines who we are. The employees listened intently. Today we're going to talk about autism awareness, Margaret continued. But more than that, we're going to talk about seeing people, really seeing them. Not as transactions or inconveniences, but as human beings deserving of dignity and kindness. After class, Margaret walked to her office. It still felt surreal sometimes. Her own office, with her name on the door, Margaret Chen, Director of Inclusive Customer Experience. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. Emma wanted to know if Margaret could come to her piano recital next week. Margaret smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it for the world. She thought about Dale. He'd been transferred to a different location. Not fired, but moved. James had been clear. Everyone deserves a chance to learn, to grow, to become better. Margaret looked out the window at the setting sun. 57 years old and starting a whole new chapter. Life was strange and beautiful that way. She'd spent 18 years at a checkout counter, scanning groceries and making small talk. She'd thought that was her purpose. But it turned out those years were preparation. Every interaction, every kindness shown, every lesson learned had led her here. To this moment. This purpose. This calling. All because she'd listened to her heart on one Tuesday afternoon when the fluorescent lights hummed and a little girl needed help. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest ripples. Sometimes stepping away from where you're supposed to be leads you to exactly where you need to go. And sometimes, just sometimes, doing the right thing changes everything. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your comment about what kindness means to you would mean the world to us. Together, we can remind each other that compassion still matters, and that one moment of grace can transform lives in ways we never imagined.